Hey guys, what's going on? This is just an introduction video to a string of videos I'm going to put together regarding my weight loss journey after my alcoholism. So it's not all about alcoholism, as you can imagine, but there's lots of links to it through the broken thinking. So if this video is not for you, turn off now, and if you stayed to watch, thank you. I think it's very important for me to put out there straight away that my weight issues and health issues were equally as important for me as quitting drinking, right from me off. So I did both of them together, basically starting at the same time. So as I say, this is just an introduction. I'm going to give you some insight into the type of person I was and how the weight issues developed with me. And then I'm going to break it down into like 1 to 6 months, 6 to 12 and so on to where I am today. Because it's been a roller coaster, you know. I mean, it's broken thinking, isn't it? It's addict thinking, even with food. So let's start at the beginning. I was a slightly overweight kid. I was quite chunky. It's hard to explain. I was kind of I always carried a bit extra weight. You know, I wasn't that fat kid. I know that's quite a horrible thing to say, but I wasn't that fat kid at school. But I was chunky, and I was always aware of that, and I was always very self-confident about it as well. And that was from quite a young age. I would probably say I was probably 1.5 stone overweight, generally as a kid. So nothing too bad, but it was, you know, I was aware of it. I think that was the problem. So all through school, up until the age of about 15, then I kind of, you know, when you get to sort of that age, you realise you can kind of do things about it, and I was quite sporty. I was into a lot of various sports, but again, I was always sort of chunky with it. I think 15, 16, I would have been weighing in at around 12.5 stone, maybe 13.5 stone. So again, probably a good 1 to 1.5, between 1 and 2 stone overweight. But it wasn't. I never carried a big fat belly. I was just a big framed person, so the fat was stored sort of all over. Around 17, when I was about 17, I got into the weightlifting. I loved weight training. It was awesome. It's one of those things I found, and right from me off I knew, oh, this is really good. And I got into that in quite a big way. So I probably started training, we'll just say at 17, and I will have been, at 17, I'm probably up about 14.5 stone. So again, you're probably looking at about 2 stone overweight. So obviously you start training, with that becomes, well, supposedly healthier eating. Obviously you're eating a lot more, because the problem was, hindsight's a wonderful thing looking back, but the problem was, it was just all about me getting as big as I could, by any means possible, as I'll go into. But so I was eating lots of fatty foods. Now I don't mean takeaways and McDonald's and things like that, but you know, you'd read up on all these diets, and you know, I was putting vast amounts of nuts away, and all the powders, protein and creatine, just all these protein supplements and whatever, and it was all about putting the weight on. So I suppose in the space of between 17 to 19, I was up at around 17 stone then. Now granted, it was quite a solid 17 stone, and although that's quite a lot of weight, that was quite a lot of weight for me to carry. Because of my build, I was one of those people who, you know, when you got in a conversation, how much do you weigh? I'm 17 stone, people would look at you and go, never, you don't look that heavy. But whether it's density or whatever, I don't know, but I've always been heavy. I think round about that time, a bit of broken thinking came into it, and I decided with a friend to go down the steroid route, like you do, injecting testosterone into my ass. And again, that all comes down to that want for instant gratification, which I think a lot of us suffer from, especially addicts. So that could have been a sign back then that I had problems, but a lot of people were into that. So we did the research, we spent a lot of money on these drugs and what have you. But again, the point is, it's all about me putting weight on. So I think I cycled steroids for about a year and a half. Probably in that time, I've probably done 3 full courses, I'm guessing, I don't know. I think, I can't even remember back then, but probably up to like 12 weeks, stacking the steroids, and then, 6 weeks off, or maybe longer, and then save some money and buy some more. So as all this is going on, you're putting a bit of muscle on, I just generally got bigger. But it wasn't a muscular, it wasn't, you can tell this guy goes to the gym. I was just a big dude. With not much definition, because there was a lot of fat underneath there as well. So I'd say that take us up to like 20-year-old, and I will have been about 18 stone then. And as I say, it was quite a hard 18 stone. It wasn't fat, there wasn't much belly there, but I just stopped. So this is not even the drugs, they stopped before this. But, at 20 years old plus, you start doing other things. I had started drinking by then, obviously not alcoholically, but, drinking with the mates, the pubs, the clubs, and, Friday, Saturday nights out, all the normal stuff you do. And I can't really remember in detail, but I did carry on with sports, football mainly, but it wasn't like a routine, a weekly routine. It was just now and again. So what happened is, obviously, all that muscle just starts, not all that muscle, but the muscle I'd built started to disappear. I was eating shit. Obviously, I didn't lose any weight because I stopped training. I gained. So I'd kind of set myself up for this weight journey from sort of back in the day, which, again, looking back in hindsight, you wouldn't have done it that way if you got your chance again. So yeah, probably so that takes us from like 21 to probably 25 when the diet, starting to go on a diet happened. So I probably got up to I'd say about 18 and a half stone, from 21 plus. And that's a lot of weight to carry around when it's not a fit weight. It's mainly fat. On top of that, all the alcohol, all the just empty calories flying into my body constantly. Fast food, the takeaways was a big thing, and just eating at home and not eating healthily. Because you don't care back then at that age. You really don't. You know everything, don't you? Or so you think. So then we jump on to probably 25 to, let's just say, 35. Within that 10 years, I did a couple of diets, and obviously the weight, it was creeping up, but I would do these fad diets. I was massively into what we call in the UK Slim Fast diet, which is basically 2 shakes, one for your breakfast, one for your dinner, and then a balanced 600 calorie meal in the evening, and drink 2 litres of water, and the weight will fly off. I did this quite a few times, and it worked for me. A lot of people struggle with Slim Fast because it shakes and you don't feel full. For whatever reason, I could do it. Diets are a funny thing. Looking back again, you realise dieting is the worst thing you can do, because something like a Slim Fast diet just promotes a yo-yo dieter. It just makes a yo-yo dieter, and that's what it did with me. So I'd go on these diets for 2-3 months. I'd lose a load of weight. I'd 3, 4, maybe 5 stone at a time. A lot of weight. I'd get down to a weight. There's something with me that when I got into the 16 stones, because I didn't have a beer belly or a big belly, I always felt pretty comfortable at 16 stone. That was kind of always my target weight to get to, which is silly. Well, I don't know if it's silly, but it's interesting because science, if you look up your height, weight, sex and what have you, and what you should wear, I should have been at under 13 stone. But I was happy with being, 3.5 stone over that weight and feeling comfortable with it. But it does come down to the individual and how you feel about yourself. So I did this many times. Now, sort of looking back, I've lost 5 stone in one hit 4 different times in my life. Now, 5 stone is a hell of a lot of weight to lose. But the sad thing is, I always put it back on, and more, always. And I never kept it off for very long either. And the reason I didn't keep it off was because of my broken thinking, which I never knew I had. You know, it was thinking a strict regime, a strict diet was the answer, and then you lose that weight, and then you think you can just go back to normal, and you know, you'll keep that weight off and whatever. And as we know, and as science tells us, that's not how it works. You know the science yourself. It's your receptors in your body. You know, and you starve yourself, you store fat. There's loads of things I know now that I never knew back then. But the point is, I turned myself into a yo-yo dieter. So as well as losing these large chunks, probably 4 times over my life, you know, I kept on doing it for a month at a time. I'd put, you know, you'd lose a stone, but then I put 2 stone back on. So that's kind of where it went, and it was just very unhealthy lifestyle. Then plus, you know, from if you look at the ages from probably 28 to 38, we'll just take that 10 years. You know, my alcoholism was massive. You know, I wasn't fully blown, but I was working my way up to it quickly. So I had all those empty alcohol calories going into me as well. And daft as it sounds, the only thing I drunk back then was whiskey, and it always had Coke in it. So you know, all those fizzy calories as well. You know, it's just, you know, it's no wonder I was fat. So that on top, just sort of, you know, I was only going one way. It was coming to a head. And I eventually got to a stage, and I blamed it all on alcoholism, which I guess is quite the natural thing to do. It was like, well, if I can stop drinking, then I'm pretty sure the weight will just fall off me, and that'll be me done with that'll maybe be done with it. But obviously it wasn't, because whether I had a food addiction as well. I certainly had. I don't know if I'd say I had a food addiction, but I'd definitely say I had food issues. So yeah, that kind of takes us up now to when I was at my heaviest. So that brings us up to about 2015, when I was about 40, 41, 42 years old. And the heaviest I got to was, I've got it written down, I got to 21 stone 7, which in other money is £302. That's a lot of weight. That's a fat guy. That's a very, very fat, alcoholic, unhealthy guy. That was me at my very worst. I actually once got to that weight, and I dropped 5 stone off of it, and put it all back on. You know, this in a span of probably, looking back now, probably dieted for about 4 months, 5 months, exercise like hell. You know, it was all that broken thinking, completely all or nothing. Just get this done, just get the weight off, and then when it's off, we'll worry about keeping it off then. Just ridiculous. So as I say, that takes us to about 42, £302. Then that's when I started to come to terms with my alcoholism and realised I needed to do something about it. I won't go into how the quitting side of it, because I've got loads of videos on here of how I did that and what have you. But basically, from 41 to 44, there was a 2.5 year period or a 2 year period when I was sort of quit drinking, and then I'd relapse, and this just yo-yoed as well. When I did manage to get myself sober, I was losing weight. You know, I was on diets again, strict diet at the beginning, and just really extreme exercise programs and that, just to lose it. And then of course relapsed with the alcoholism, you know, and generally before I relapsed, the food issue hit me first. You'd stop the diet, you'd stop the exercise, you'd start eating what you would call treats, you know, oh, I deserve a treat, you know, it's just broken thinking. But, you know, at the end of it, you were left with me relapsed, back on the booze, worse than ever, and the weight just piling on, and the weight goes on so fast. You know, you might be, you know, when you're dieting and you're doing it incorrectly, I'd be losing 3-4 pounds every week, but it can go on, it can go back on at that rate as well, which is really scary. And when you're in, you know, you're down in the dumps, you think you're at your rock bottom, of which we have many, or I've had many. You know, to jump on the scales and see that weight not creeping up, flying up, it's fucking heartbreaking. So as the bid to get sober carried on, I was managing to get some weight off. So this is kind of the end of this first video. This is going to take us up to, after all the relapses, this is going to be from the next video will start from the 17th of October 2016 when I got myself sober. But basically, when I got there, I was at 19 stone 9, which was in other money £279. So still a very chunky monkey, big boned, cuddly, all the buzzwords you want, but basically a very unhealthy guy. So obviously I'd knocked that weight off, so that was my starting point when I finally got myself sober. So that's the introduction. Now I'm going to make some more videos and break it into chunks because I find it quite interesting, the roller coaster ride, and how my thinking changed and other things, and how I've managed to keep it off and what have you. So anyway, thanks for watching, and hope you watch the next one. Thanks, bye.